Turning the eyes forward towards Northwestern, there's lots to talk about.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Before we get into this week's show, Mark Onweiler, would you let them know, please, about Athletic Brewing?
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full of flavor, well-crafted, just like the full-strength beers you love and enjoy. They're fit for all times, so you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity more enjoyable, like watching a big game, or your kid's game, or tackling work, or working out, or anytime you like to enjoy a beverage. Plus, hey, no hangovers, ever. You still get to drink beer without all those ugly side effects. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy them online at athleticbrewing.com. And first-time customers can use the code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, Locked On, at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I appreciate you folks who are hitting the subscribe button, getting this content. Greatly appreciate you being a part of what we do and for the feedback that you give throughout the course of these shows. And we're going to ride heavy every day throughout the rest of the month of October. I owe you folks that, so that's what I'm going to do for you. I want to get eyes forward towards Northwestern. And there's several things in play when it comes to Northwestern, the history, the recent history especially, that even when Nebraska thought it had more talent than Northwestern, it had some issues. Now, this is not the Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern program. They've gone through changes, the same sort of changes that Nebraska has gone through, the same sort of competitions that Nebraska has gone through, the rebranding of the program, the redirection and re-imaging of the team. All of these things were in play. Nebraska has a new head coach in Matt Rule. Northwestern has an interim head coach, David Braun, and it appears that based on the results, the low expectation of what was happening going into the season, that somehow after 17 years of Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern may have found its next guy and could be in a situation and a place to do something exceptional with it. Braun has this Northwestern team up to 3-3, and new coaches. Doesn't matter where you are and at what level you are. New coaches have to rebrand the program. They have to restamp it. Sometimes it requires that you clean house. Sometimes it is the changing of rules and regulations. Sometimes it's the reestablishing of boundaries, and sometimes it is the simplification of what you do. This is how amazing this is. Now I can tell you, Northwestern was put in a place where, again, after a 1-11 season with Pat Fitzgerald, that with the interim head coach, that most of the sports football, college football pontificators picked Northwestern to be at the bottom of the Big Ten Conference. Well, they currently sit in a pretty good spot with an opportunity to actually make a statement. And this, I don't want to oversell Saturday's game with Northwestern and Nebraska, but I don't want to undersell it either, because at a time where Wisconsin and Iowa appear to have some holes, some leakage, it's an opportunity for whoever wins this game to get on the plus side of things and to be in conversations that they were not in a year ago. With either team reaching 4-3, with new head coaches, change of roster, change of philosophy, change of standard, you're in a different conversation. And this is huge. I don't have to tell Husker fans how big this would be if Matt Rule can get this Nebraska team to 4-3. All right? And they don't have to look any further. You don't have to look beyond that. Getting to 4-3 is a big honking deal. It puts you in bowl qualification category. It puts you into the place where you can look at the next week and actually feel like, oh my goodness, this looks like a winning streak. The great Lou Boudreaux says, if you win consecutive games in a row, that's called a winning streak. That's a big deal for Nebraska, and it's a big deal for Northwestern. And hold your breath for a second, but just imagine Nebraska beating Northwestern and being at 4-3. Well, the same conversations are going on at Northwestern with Coach Braun. That if he can get this ragtag group of Wildcats to 4-3 in his first year, when they were picked last in the Big Ten Conference by most of the pontificators, my goodness gracious, that program is going to look different. It's going to sound different. It's going to work different. Now, not only were two bottom dwellers in the Big Ten and the Big Ten West, are we talking about in Nebraska and Northwestern, but new head coaches and quarterback controversy, quarterback conversations. And here's the thing. To bring in 6-year transfer Ben Bryant from Cincinnati, I'm not sure anybody thought that this would turn Northwestern into an offensive juggernaut. It hasn't. The offense has struggled. They have their own issues. Run game not being what they want it to be or need for it to be in the Big Ten. Offensive line questions, again, sound familiar. They've got their issues. Passing game is the real issue for me when you look at Northwestern. They've got some questions offensively. But this is a Northwestern offense that has figured out how to win 3 games. Like, I'm not mad at it. The stats will tell you that Northwestern averages 103 yards a game and 3 yards an attempt. Both of those are last in the Big Ten Conference. I'll repeat that. They average 103 yards a game, which is last in the Big Ten Conference. They average 3 yards a carry, 3.1 yards a carry. That's last in it. And here's the thing, though. They almost have 200 rushing attempts. 49%. Literally half of their offense is run the ball. I mean, they're 51-49. But Bryant, in what he's doing, he's still in the bottom half passing and a touchdown and completions. But I think he's done enough. A lot of their conversation is whether Ben Bryant has done enough to be their quarterback QB1. And Nebraska fans certainly understand that conversation and trying to figure out who your quarterback 1 is and whether that's enough. Is that going to help you win more games in the Big Ten Conference? Ben Bryant has an opportunity against Nebraska to cement himself in as QB1 and to give some peace of mind to Northwestern fans. We'll throw the break. We'll come back more. We'll get into deeper into the numbers that tell us who Northwestern football really is. Hey gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you very much for making it your first watch and listen, even on the weekends. Greatly appreciate you folks finding it, diving into the content. You put comments down in the comment section. And for a big week, Mark Onweiler, if you would please let them know about eBay Motors.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. A couple of things we want to talk about in this thing that in previous episodes I've given some of the numbers so you got some idea about what Nebraska was doing over the course of the first 6 games. And we talked about some of the numbers that jump. Now, Northwestern gives up 27 points a game while scoring 22. That's kind of where I think this game lands for Nebraska and Northwestern. I think if Nebraska can put up 24 points, they win the game. They should be able to hold Northwestern's offense to less than that. As a matter of fact, I think 17 points should win the game. But that's just me. Throughout the course of this thing, they give up a ton of first downs running the ball. When you give up 55 rushing first downs and 55 passing, teams tend to play conservatively against Northwestern. I don't know why that is, but offensively, teams tend to not go deep into their bag against Northwestern. Northwestern is doing the thing that we talked about with Nebraska, in that they've got 10 offensive penalties. It shows up. They've got 198 attempts. They have lost 200 yards in tackles for losses and sacks. That handicaps your offense. And Nebraska fans, your skin the hair on the back of your neck should stand up because you're familiar with that. But here's the other thing. In what they've done defensively, I mean, averaging 3 yards a carry, the opponents have averaged 4.5 yards a carry on the ground. If Nebraska can find some rhythm and flow, some ebb and flow, with Harburg making good decisions with the ball, getting a pitch out, simplifying the blocking schemes, not putting the ball on the turf, Grant not putting it on the turf, this will allow Harburg more time to throw the ball. But I think the run game, the matchup is good, that they've been giving up 172 yards a game rushing. Northwestern has been giving up 172 yards a game rushing. And for Nebraska, that's a gold ticket. That's a Willy Wonka gold ticket. That is an invite to come party if they can get this done. Now, this is not new to Nebraska Northwestern. This has been a thing. It's been Nebraska's ability to actually execute that on game days against Northwestern that has given gray hair to Husker Nation in ways that they do not want. A couple other things in this thing. Now, we talked about Nebraska averaging 6 yards an attempt, right? Northwestern's the same. But there's a key difference in the stats that Nebraska had the 5 touchdown passes. Northwestern has doubled that. They've doubled that. To their 4 interceptions, they have 10 touchdowns. And they've thrown for 1,200 yards. So there is something to what Ben Bryant is doing with the offense when he gets time. Now, if Nebraska gets its pressure, especially, circle this, if Hutmaker and Ty Robinson get pressure up the middle, this is an exceptional day for Nebraska defensively. If the pressure has to come from the outside backer, you're asking for trouble because you're giving this young man time. If they can get home with the bigs, Nebraska will be successful, deeply successful. A couple other things in this thing. So Northwestern has given up 6 touchdown passes. So there's a possibility. They also give up more yards per catch than Nebraska does. That additional yard shows up. And they're not very good at shutting down certain receivers. The success ratio Opposing quarterbacks are 100 for 160 against them. Pretty efficient, both giving away and accumulating about 200 yards a game. So the difference being big number, Northwestern getting those 10 touchdowns. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's a number that as an offensive coordinator you start to feel pretty good about. A few more numbers as we go along. The kicking game, the punting game for Northwestern, not exceptional. They're only averaging 37 and a half yards a punt. They punt a lot. They punt 10 times more than their opponents. They're doing well in the net yards because he's kicking for time. But there's a plus advantage for Northwestern is in the field goal game. They haven't missed a kick this year. They have not missed a kick. And I keep saying this is a big honking deal for Nebraska. Don't miss those opportunities, especially in close games with 500 teams. Finally, we'll get into this as well. We talked about time of possession, and I wanted to go into it. Northwestern has, while they have some success defensively, a real issue is them being able to get off the field. They are minus 5 minutes in time of possession. And that's a big deal for a 500 team. That's a stat that when you wrap your brain around what this Nebraska Northwestern game is going to be, the team who can establish the run, maintain the run, and then not turn the ball over. Look, it's not rocket science when these two teams play. Oh, and just a little message here from Matt Rule and Coach O'Brien. Don't onside kick late in the game when you're already up 10 points, 11 points, whatever the number is. Those are the kind of things that are required for Northwestern to beat this Nebraska team. Listen, when you go player for player, position for position, and then scheme versus scheme, Nebraska has several advantages that make this an attractive game, especially playing at home. At home, after a bye week. Now, Northwestern's on a bye week as well. But Nebraska's ability to run the ball and its willingness to. Now, my hope is that you don't get cute and decide that, hey, we're going to run the ball from our own 20 to their 45, and then I'm going to get into my passing game. Listen, do what you do. Beat Northwestern up. Beat them up on the ground. Keep the offense. Keep Ben Bryant on the sideline. Keep that kicker on the sideline. And then don't turn the ball over. These are base things. But this is how Nebraska beats Northwestern. Again, the importance of going 4-3. Oh, my goodness. Listen, as media in this space, we have to carry the news no matter what. I get giddy at the idea of being able to talk about a 4-3 Nebraska team rather than a 3-4 Nebraska team. We'll throw it a break. We'll come back, some closing notes, just a few other details about the Wildcats. How can Nebraska beat them? We'll talk about that. We'll come back to Locked On. Hey, gang, DP here. To close this one out, and again, it's a long week, so we'll get more news on health updates. Expect those in the next episode. Health updates, depth chart, some of those things that will tell us what the personnel will look like on the field, and then why they're going to be on the field. Both staffs have to deal with, well, who's your guy? And if you don't have a number one guy, then you don't have a guy. But I think both of them feel comfortable in the young man, whatever young man they put behind center this coming Saturday. A couple of things to close and get into it. Both teams, 6 games in, would fully admit that this has been interesting. But I know the Northwestern fan base would have been excited about being 3-3 after 6 games. I think that Husker fans currently are excited about being 3-3 after 6 games. Because both teams, and this is good and bad, are going to measure their season by Saturday's game. The sad part is that Nebraska is at a point where Northwestern is the measuring stick. Like, are we better than Northwestern? Because Northwestern keeps poking its head up. It's like whack-a-mole. You think 1-11, you're done with them. Pat Fitzgerald gone, you're done with them. Losing players, you're done with them. No, they're sitting right next to you, looking you dead in the eye at 3-3. The other side of this is that Northwestern, through all of its trials, tribulations, and circumstance, has won the Big Ten West 3 out of the last 6 years. Or would this would be 3 out of 6 years. You can't do anything but applaud that. That's Northwestern. And Nebraska, listen, there would be some deals made if Nebraska could guarantee that they would win the Big Ten West. They could have won the Big Ten West twice in the last 6 years. But my goodness gracious, both these teams at 3-3 with a win Saturday actually put themselves in contention for the Big Ten West title and an opportunity to play, to be in the space, because you get Iowa on your schedule and Wisconsin on your schedule. And if you win the games that you should win, could win, and this is a game that matters, Northwestern wins, they can see themselves in Indy again. If Northwestern can figure out how to make it to 2 Big Ten West titles, Nebraska should be able to figure out a way. I know that it's I'm dreaming, but allow me to dream, because that's what we do. It'll be a long week. We'll get more information as we go. 3-3, both teams come in. It is a big week for Nebraska. It is a big week for Northwestern, and it's a big week in the Big Ten Conference. Buckle up. It's going to be a long week. Saturday comes, 2:30 kickoff here at Memorial Stadium. I'm DP. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And we'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.